Do you think that you had a different approach for this research portfolio compared to the music video portfolio?
Yes.
Okay, why?
I didn't because with the other research portfolio again, I was a bit lost. I didn't know what to do. So in this one, I kind of, because I knew what I had to do, I went at a different approach.
Okay, I totally agree. I think this research portfolio, there is a much more focused and what appears to be a clearer aim as to what research you need and therefore the sources that you've gone to.
Yeah.
So whereas with your short horror film, it kind of felt like you was just almost ticking boxes with research, yeah? This time, I think you really thought about the types of information that may help you create an idea for a music video, and those sources have been evidenced in your portfolio. So that's really good. Just to go back, we began the research portfolio with a short look, or you've called it a short look at the history of music videos. I feel you've called it a short look because it is indeed a short look, okay? You need to make sure that your work isn't rushed, okay? Because if I said to you, talk to me about the history of music videos, okay? What's one of the earliest points in terms of music video development do you know of?
Beatles, one of their songs, I can't remember the name of it. It's A Hard Day's Night.
Okay. Even before the Beatles, because the Beatles, we're looking at 60s, okay?
Yeah.
So even before the Beatles, what have we discussed in class? When we did the timeline of the development of the music video? What do we have even before the Beatles?
We had broadcasts of live performances.
Good, so we've got obviously the birth of Top of the Pops, but even before that? Do you remember when we spoke about talkies and musical videos in terms of Disney's Fantasia? Okay. What you need to make sure that you're doing, if I'm asking you to look at the history of something, that I'm not saying you to write me every single thing that happened in the years from the birth of the music video to now. What I'm asking you to do is to give me an overview of the developments, the main points of significance, okay? So the points that you make here are relevant and detailed, but it only focuses on the 60s. We get a bit here from the 80s, and then here you have a little bit about the web era. Doesn't really mention about YouTube or the birth of iTunes, or now obviously we have other sharing platforms like Vivo. It's a bit rushed.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was back when I was just like, when I was leaving it to the last minute.
So I'd like to see a lot more detail.
Yeah, I
reflection.
I can.
Okay. We then moved on to your essay.
Yes.
And I was pleased to see that in terms of structure, we didn't have any subtitles or anything like that. There was a clear structure to the essay. It's been laid out appropriately. Okay. This said, you do need to think about structure in terms of introduction.
Okay.
And at the end of the essay, you've attempted a conclusion, and I'm going to talk to you about that when we get to the end of the essay, okay? But at the beginning of the essay, you introduce the topic and the themes, but don't discuss them in detail straight away. So what you did was, you spoke about, this was brilliant, culture of music is defined by its genre and style. This can carry over in the videos that are produced as they all have different purposes. This essay will focus on these purposes from the early days and so on. So all you're doing here is just describing what you're going to talk about before you actually go into real significant detail about those points.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So I kind of felt like I needed this sentence and a little bit more, then purpose 1, purpose 2, and so on. Okay, fantastic. This said, if I had an introduction, let's imagine there was one here, this as your beginning of your essay, your first paragraph, was absolutely fantastic. It was very detailed. You're raising really specific points, but all I would say is make sure that each point is kept to a paragraph, because this whole paragraph is very detailed, but you raise so many points in this one paragraph. So in here we've got the fact that they're focused on narratives. We've got about technology. We've got about placement. We've got about marketing. We've then got a comparison from earlier videos, all in one paragraph. What you need to do is have point example, next paragraph,
Yeah.
point example. Okay. You then make up here. You say in the past it was more focused on narrative, the story written and sung, like The Eye of the Tiger and Rocky film when compared work. So well because it's a good story. I'm trying to say in the past it was less about representation of the artist and more of a focus on expression. What could you then have done in terms of context?
What to like prove my point?
So if you're saying that back in the day it was more about music compared to now.
I could possibly reference Woodstock or something like that.
Okay, why?
Because again, it's more. That was a whole festival based around expressionism and all that stuff.
Yeah. What you also could have done is give me an example of a music video such like Miley Cyrus Wrecking Ball, which does the complete opposite to the example that you're describing here.
Okay.
So when I say context, what you're doing is saying that how contextually the purpose of the music video has changed from this to now in the current day.
So I shouldn't have done like David Bowie and Prince.
You could have, but then bring it more into. You could have then started talking more contextually in terms of obviously the sexualisation of music videos and how we as audience have become desensitised and perhaps we're demanding different things from a music video.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Moving forward, you make a point here about nowadays if you look at rap music videos, for example, it's more focused on the representation of the artist himself, surrounded by wealth and fame. It might not be the persona the artist wants, but it's the one the label wants to push and show to fans for sales. Simply summarising, it was very expensive, as also long advertisement just for the catchy tune, which has also worked in lyrics for promotion, sometimes not even subtly. You could direct focus on how every rap and R&B artist has to show Dr. Dre beats. Both these examples all have been paid to do this, either in promotion for a film or promote a product. It's very easy to go on with multiple examples explaining this, okay? Rather than making the point that you could go on and on, what you could have done is put a quote in to support your opinion.
Okay.
This is supported by such and
So-and-so,
such, who found that in 2015, X amount of music videos featured product placement. Something statistical to add and support the point that you're trying to make, okay? Overall, in this first section, you raise fantastic points, but remember to provide examples through references to support the points you're making. It makes your essay more detailed, good, but also the fact that you are academically thinking about points to support the obviously points that you're making, okay? You need to make sure that you're proofreading your essay, because even when I'm reading that, there needs to be more grammar. We need
so
commas, we
also,
need full stops, okay? I was struggling to breathe, okay? Careful in here when you say, if you haven't been living under a rock, okay?
Yeah,
that's really colloquial. Yeah, okay? So to show this change, it's best to look at the rap industry in the past few years. Fans alike will know, okay?
Yeah.
You don't need to say if you've been living under a rock, okay? Again, proofread. Johnny Cash deserves a capital letter on his last name, okay? And cashiers obviously would need an apostrophe there rather than an ES, okay? As we move forward into this section of the essay, there is great use of examples to support the points you're making. What I perhaps would like to have seen is when you're talking about codes and conventions, specifically, you could have linked, better linked to specific codes and conventions. So what I mean here is that you're talking about rap and R&B, but it would have been nice to see more mention of the codes and conventions that are very specific to those genres rather than just general conventions of music videos.
Okay.
And to link that in more specifically, okay? Because obviously we've got here like examples of Johnny Cash and that sort of thing, but you're then mentioning rap and urban, so it would have been nice to have like specific comparisons of those conventions as well.
Okay.
The last section where you looked at the genre of rap, relatively new genre, good discussion of context, but again, try to be more specific in your use of examples, okay? So I think what we really need to work on is if you're making a point, then have a detailed example, move on to the next point, detailed example, okay? This ending here, though, was a great awareness of placing something into a context. So when you was talking, hear about censorship and how that's going to play a big factor, and expressionism and the move towards YouTube. This was great in terms of context, okay? So overall, I think that you touched on all of the points relative to the essay in somewhat detail, but I would like to see more use of specific examples to make sure that you're able to make sound judgments and articulate ambitions and clarify your purpose by making sure there's more specific use of examples, okay? Whereas at times we was here, but other times we only had an understanding, a description.
Okay.
Whereas on other occasions we had more clarity. Okay, so just need to make sure it's more consistent.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, the conclusion, okay? Well done for including this, because many people missed it out, okay? But what you need to make sure that you're doing it in your conclusion is you only draw back to the main points that you've discussed in your essay. You never discuss something new. Whereas in here, you started talking about piracy and angry unpaid artists, which is nothing that you've ever mentioned in the whole essay. So you never bring anything new into the conclusion of an essay.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, good. Right, then we move on to the rest of your research portfolio. So we've got primary and secondary research. Now, in terms of your questionnaire and focus group analysis, there was great links to specific research findings, and most importantly, how you could use those to inform your production. So last time, what you wasn't doing is saying to me, yes, this is what I found out, but what does that actually mean in terms of planning for a short horror film? And I think that was because, as you said, your focus for your research was a little or somewhat all over the place, whereas this time, the focus group questions were really specifically about what do you think works in this music video, what doesn't work about it, what can we do to change it, what can we do to improve, and similarly in your questionnaire, which meant that when you was analysing it, you was able to make points such as, this now means for my group, we need to consider the use of a narrative style or the use of this, which was fantastic. Okay, so really, really well done. Make sure that when it comes to your questionnaire analysis, you are discussing every question, okay? You tend to skip to the more meaty questions and forget about some of the other ones. So it's still really important to make sure you're talking about the target audience or what you got from those audience profile types of questions, and that you are drawing findings and conclusions from each question, not just the ones of most detail. Yeah, or significance, good. In terms of your secondary research portfolio, we've got a range of research. You considered image, history, music video styles, but there is no identification of where the information has come from, so I don't have a bibliography, okay?
Oh, so I have to put in bibliography with
Please,
that, okay.
yeah. And you've drawn detailed findings, okay, in this Word document. You've told me what it is that you found out. But unlike in these documents where you're actually talking to me about how that's going to help you, in your analysis of your secondary research, it was a little bit more focused, I'll load it up, on just the research rather than how that's actually going to help you as a group, okay? So nowhere in here, so, you know, this whole document is great use of you being able to identify findings, but never do you say what that actually means in terms of moving forward in planning. Okay? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So whereas in your conclusion for your focus group and questionnaire, you were saying this now means as a group, or this means we need to include this, we didn't have that in here. So it could have been, I don't know, when you was analysing something about the band, that you noticed a house style that you know you need to include. Okay? Or something that you can draw to use on your music videos in the planning, okay? As you can see, this document needs to be completely proofread, okay? We spoke about spelling, okay? So we've got a group in there when it should be group, okay?
That has been changed.
Okay, and we need to make sure that people's names are given capital letters, okay? Overall, significant improvement from the short horror film research portfolio, a very detailed essay, largely well structured, okay? The things we need to work on is A, proofread and everything before you hand it in. And what I'd like you to add on here is a bibliography and an analysis of your secondary research in terms of a conclusion.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so what do you need to do?
Well, proofread my things, work over some spelling mistakes, and also do an evaluation type of my secondary research.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Happy?
Yeah.
Really good.
I would like to bring up a point. When we were reading over the essay,
Yes.
I think the reason I was like, when I came to the end, I was a bit kind of all over the place, is because I said everything in the first paragraph and I was running out of stuff and when I was coming later down.
Okay, so that goes back to the point I made about how much detail was in that first paragraph. That first paragraph probably could have been panned out to a page because you could have taken that point, explained it, add an example, add a reference, took the next point, explained it, add an example. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then in your conclusion, what you would have done is said, as noted, music videos have numerous purposes, from promoting the artist's talents to selling a brand. These purposes have changed as the music video has developed and as society has changed. And then you would have, all you've been doing is giving an overview of the points that you've made throughout the essay.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.